What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Bullets, Barbells, and Barbecue. I'm your host, Brett. I still have Tanner, the head, here with me. Chris and Matt are still gone, and we still have Mark and Claire from Core Physical Therapy.
Hi again.
Hello.
We are going to do something different. We're going to talk because all of us are business owners, and people always have questions or assumptions about it. So we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons and the annoyances and whatever's of owning a business. Obviously, Amber and I own the Mecca Omaha Barbell. Tanner has Elite Nutrition. Mark and Claire have Core Physical Therapy here in Omaha also. So I think people have very strange assumptions about business ownership, whether it's, oh, you must work whenever you want to, or, oh, how cool is that? You own your own business. You can do whatever you want to, or, oh, you're probably rich. You own your own business. There's all kinds of things. You know, the best part about it, if you got to take home your gross, that would be great. You probably would be rich if you got to take home your gross.
Yeah.
But yeah, if people don't know that when you make money in business, everyone has their hand out. Basically, the government has their hand out. Insurance, supplies.
Well, most employees don't even understand. They don't understand when they pay their Social Security and Medicare, we match it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they don't even get that. Like
They don't know who FICA. They don't know who FICA is, but we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
They just think that we're taking that money out for their taxes, and
No, we get to take it out of theirs, and then we get to
and then we
match
get to pay it as well.
And we pay income tax and payroll tax at the same time, so we get a double tax
And pass-through tax.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get the weird ones like the, what's that one you get?
Recycling fee.
The waste reduction recycling fee.
Yeah.
And we get to pay property tax on
The business.
Yeah, personal
contents
property
that we
tax
own
of the business
in the
contents.
business.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of deceiving ideas out there of people because, don't get me wrong, own your own business, it is great. I don't regret it, especially if you have a successful business, which I feel like all of us have successful businesses. And I think we all do well of feeding each other because we're all in the same kind of realm of business. But the idea that every business owner is of wealth is not true. Because like I said, a lot of, even like, let's look at the end of it, your net pay, which if people don't net it, gross is, if people don't understand what this is, gross is what you make before anything's gone. Net is what you make after everything's gone.
Yep.
And that's a big difference.
I saw a meme the other day that it was like, do I have everything? I absolutely have everything. Everything in this world. I have anxiety and I have depression and I have
and a lot
stress
of us,
and I have a spending problem. And
yes. And a lot of us as business owners, that net goes back into the business. A good amount of it goes back into, if you want to be a good business, it goes back in. I mean, especially more probably with Tanner because you're flipping over inventory. We don't necessarily have, I have some inventory because I carry drinks and obviously I do supplement stuff with Tanner. So I have that turnover as far as that goes. But otherwise, I mean, a lot of it goes back in equipment, especially at the gym here. And I'm sure at Core, equipment's not cheap.
no.
Maintenance. Everything.
I think one of the biggest misnomers, if we're just going to jump right in, is that we all have employees, right? And the employee sees maybe a small snippet of what's coming in, but the employee generally has zero idea of what's going out. So in our business, we bill insurance, we have some cash pay, and maybe our employees will look at that and say, wow, I'm making my employer, I'm making Mark and Claire X amount of dollars for every single patient I see, or every single person that comes in the door, or every single training session. But that employee does not understand how that little chunk of pie of payment gets cut into a gazillion pieces. For us, it's, well, okay, you documented and we build insurance for that patient that our employee saw. We have to pay for that documentation system. We have to pay for that billing. We have to pay for the electricity to run the internet that we also have to pay for to be able to bill for that. We pay for that computer that you used. We paid for the table that you treated that patient on. We paid for the equipment that you used that. And nobody as an employee understands that until you're in the middle of it.
We didn't either.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And like you said, someone treating someone at your clinic.
Got out of breath with that.
It was a lot of words. But, let's just say, I'm just throwing out, let's just say it was $50 for one of your PTs to work on somebody. Mm-hmm. By the time you subtract out the supplies they used, paying them, taxes, everything, what you make out off of that person completely is a different number.
Completely different.
Yeah. I mean,
a dramatically lower number.
We know that there's a number of patients that our employees have to see before we even think about breaking even. And that number is so far off of what the employee thinks it is.
Because,
For all employees. It's not ours.
Well, and I think, like I said, they base it off of what they're getting paid hourly
Right.
to see, and they're like, oh, if they're making this, then obviously they're
Like, I should be getting paid 2 to 3 to 4 times more than what I am. Well, there's a lot of
you
hands
gotta
in
pay
that pot.
for support staff and the computer technology that we use, and the rent isn't the cheapest thing on the planet in West Omaha.
Yeah.
So as we know,
Well, I'm sure both of you gentlemen probably have that same thing where you pay your employees, a set amount per hour, and then they're sitting there saying, well, I do this for your business and I make your business this much money. Why am I not getting paid X dollars more? Because there's a lot of things that you have to pay as a business owner.
So we try and do a really good job. I've owned a business since I was like 28. So I've always tried to just like let my employees know what's going on. Like I'll just sit down with them and show them, because to me it's easier for them to understand. One of the first businesses I owned was Andy's Appliance Repair, and I bought it from my parents. And the first year I owned it, I made less money than I did working for them, and I had a $20,000 tax bill I wasn't ready for. And like I went to my
Still
account.
own them?
No, I sold it.
Oh, we totally used them the other day.
Yeah, I sold it 10 years
Fixed our
ago.
fridge.
Yeah. Which is nice because it's been able to keep going on after I sold it. So built something pretty decent.
because your dad started it, right?
My grandpa.
Grandpa, nice.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
What's his
Yeah.
name? Andy.
That was his nickname in the military.
That's a weird nickname, but okay.
Well, our
What's
last
his
name is
name?
Andrews. And they call you by your last name. And
Okay.
You got
That makes more sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah,
There you go.
I'll give you that.
Yeah. But so like I just sat down with my employees, like I had paychecks sitting on my desk that were mine that I couldn't cash because I had to pay them. And that's the thing you have to do as a business owner. Your employees, your bills always have to come before you.
Yeah.
And people don't understand the risk that's involved, everything you have to do. Like, okay, well, I wanted to make money. I was bitching at my accountant. I'm like, you need to fix this. He's like, if you want more money, make more money.
Yeah.
Well,
I think you hit the nail on the head, is that a lot of people, and not just employees versus employers, just like the general public, don't realize that business owners get paid last.
Yes.
Good business owners, I should say. Good business owners pay themselves last. So we are doing everything else for the clinic, for, your business. I'm sure you're the same way, getting stock, seeing patients, buying equipment. We're always the last to get paid. There are months that we don't get paid if there are big purchases that we have to do, or big repairs or something like that, or slower months because of the insurance flow.
And there's always been those times that you're going to pay bills. And you're like, okay, well, if I wait to pay this one, I'll have this come in. So I'll pay this one first because I can wait this one and I can do this. And you play that game, especially in the beginning of business.
Absolutely.
You're like, we can do this and this. And like, I can hold this guy off. You know what I mean? Like, this bill's not due until this day, but they also have like a grace period. So I can pay this one first. And by the time it all shuffles in and out, you know what I mean? Like, then you play that game.
Well,
yeah,
I think
there's a huge misconception that there's this like exorbitant amount of money that's involved. I think most business owners don't even make money for many years. It depends on your margins of your business. Every business is different. If you own a restaurant, or you own a gym, or you own medical, it's different. Your margins are different, but the same principles are universal. You don't make money right away. Generally, it takes years of work and sacrifice and building before you even break even. And then at that point, your margins become better, but it's not like you just start a business and you make a ton of money right away. I don't know.
Well, I think all of us here are uniquely like situated to do that because we all grew up poor. It sounded like,
Yeah.
And when you grow up poor, you can learn how to live poor. So when you're a business owner, like, well, you're looking long term. Like, what's this going to be in 5 years, 10 years? And I'm willing to sacrifice now. But I don't think a lot of people get the sacrifice that you put in when you like. I don't think people understand like how broke you can be.
Yeah.
And they just see the outside. Like you own a business. Yeah, but I'm also eating ramen.
Yeah.
Like maybe now I drive a nice car, but at one point in time I wasn't. You know what I mean? Like you have to earn that. And it takes time and it's a huge risk. And a lot of people just don't have the balls for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, Mark will make this joke a lot, but like, I did not get a paycheck for a year and a half. I think
Probably more like 2 years.
Yeah. And Mark will say something like, oh, when Claire came on full time, and people are like, oh, did she not work here? No, I worked. I worked
You worked
40
full
hours
time.
a week. I just didn't get paid. So I had to work elsewhere to get $1 to be able to pay our mortgage and pay a car payment and things like that. And people don't necessarily realize that, if you're a good business owner, then that you're willing to do that. Like you said, that you don't realize how poor you can be
Yeah.
and how little you can live off until that is your only option, because you've poured everything that you have into a business that you're like, well, I'll be damned if that's going down without a fight.
Well, and I think some of this new, like some of the things have been like kill the rich, or like the exploit, you're making money exploiting the labor of your, like that mentality, like that's for people that are way beyond your small business owner.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And honestly, like people bitch about the rich, but they still have iPhones and they still use Amazon. So, I mean, like you may complain, but you're also using their shit every day.
Yeah.
And for small business owners, they're just not like there's very little exploitation. Most of your employees are friends or even family, or you
Yeah.
think of them as friends or family,
Absolutely.
and you're taking care of them. And like you said, you're the last to get paid. If you want your business to go out, miss payroll once.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Miss it one time and people quit.
Yeah. I think the risk is huge. And I think people really don't see that part because they see the success, but they don't know where you got. Long story short, we had great jobs. We made good money. We had no issues. We wanted something more.
I wouldn't say we had no issues, but
We had issues. No, we didn't have issues.
job wise.
But, well, yeah, with the job. But we wanted something more. Like, we wanted to do a different type of business. And so we gave up, high-paying jobs to make zero money for probably 2 years before we paid our loan off. We paid our business loan off.
I had 4 jobs.
Yeah.
Probably the first 2 years that we opened up our business.
And I
4
made
paying jobs.
And I made less money my first 2 years at that business than I made before because we were paying our loan off. And when we paid our loan off and brought you on as a paid employee, that's when it was good for us. But before that, we went from a very, like upper middle class income to like no income. We didn't spend any money, no vacations, no going out to eat. We just worked for like years, paid our loan off, and then we build from there. But in the beginning, people have this assumption. We're lucky because we're in medical, so our margins are higher than a lot of other businesses. It can take more than 2 years to get to there. It could take 5 or 10. Some people don't ever get there.
And I've, like you and I have had these talks before. You guys are the business. You know what I mean? And that's the hard part because, I started out training and I started at 24 Hour Fitness. I left there. My friend and I left and we went out to another place and then we decided to open our own spot. And I would have never been able to get my training business going if it wasn't for Amber working. You know what I mean? And she was doing her thing, and we're all in commission businesses. You know what I mean? And Amber will hustle. Amber can sell freezers at Eskimos. Like she would go door to door.
That girl.
And hustle herself out. And we would have never made it. But the hard part is you are the business. So if you miss anything, so when we opened the gym, I was lucky enough that I could train, so I didn't have to get a paycheck. I could train and work the gym, so I didn't have to pay anybody, which is what I still do, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. 4 days a week until 3 on Monday. But to get to that part, but I mean, like I still work 60 hours a week at the gym because, it was our first like probably 6 or 7 years that I didn't get paid from the gym. I got paid from my training business because I own the training studio next door. That also grew because we grew that, which also, like I said, if it wasn't for Amber working and basically carrying me, you know what I mean? So the part of the gym was that because I didn't want to have to train people for 12 hours a day. Like I used to do like 19 appointments a day training people. And that's a long fucking day for training. So that's what people don't see too is the hard part with now I have income from the gym. So if I, for some reason, if I was ever not to train, I at least make money, but people don't see that. Like Tanner's the same way. He can make money without being at work at the point he's at, but you guys don't make money. I mean, you're trying to get some more PTs in there, but Mark and I talked about a long time ago, like that's the hardest part is that when you are the business and yours is a fairly physical job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I went to my eye doctor the other day and I was just joking. Like I've been going since I was 2. I was like, hey man, like next year's our 40th anniversary together. And I said, how many more years are you going to do this? And he goes, well, I got to keep up with my buddy in Hawaii. He's like the Medicare surf champion and he's like 80 years old. And I said, so he goes, I'll probably do another 10 or 15 years. But now an eye doctor, and he's an ophthalmologist. So, I mean, he's like the upper echelon of the optometry area. You can work like that because it's not physical. But, being a PT and climbing on people and pushing on people and doing the things you do, like that's not an ageless
No, it's not.
career.
Well, and I think for all of us, nobody cares about your business. Well, for everybody, really.
Of course,
Nobody cares about your business as much as you will. And there are really good employees, and you can do everything that you can to keep a really good employee. But at the end of the day, your reputation is hinging on what you can control and what the images that you put forth. And that's not something that, at least where we are, that I would ever feel comfortable stepping away from.
No, and it's hard. Like with employees here, we have good employees, but they're going to miss some things. And I've kind of gotten to that point. I understand, like, they might not OCD everything away the way that I like it to be put away. But you know what? They take care of the customers. They don't steal. They fucking lock the door. I've had people not lock the doors before. And I come home I come in the morning and like I go to put the key in and the door just like pushes open. I was like, oh, well, that's pretty cool.
Oops.
I mean, we all deal with different things of that. But yeah, you're right. No one will ever care. And I've talked about this on multiple podcasts about how people don't give a shit. Customers don't, because it's not theirs. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the simplest thing, I can go walk through the bathrooms every hour here and I'll find a paper towel or toilet paper on the floor. It didn't go in. Pick it up.
Yeah, and would you do that at your own house? Probably
but then I think
not.
they would. So that's why I'm always like,
I hope not. Come on.
Like, would we have
now I feel kind of bad about not wiping up that pee.
I don't know.
You peed on the floor?
No, I didn't.
She comes out, she goes, somebody peed on the floor. They go, do I wipe it up? She goes, no.
What I did say
I go, you're
was,
a business owner.
what I did say was probably someone with a really little wiener. Didn't quite like.
But it was like a foot away from the bathroom. They had to be against the wall peeing. I don't know if they were shooting for distance or what. But
So
they didn't make it.
That is
No.
the worst thing about a male urinal is like when someone pees, then everyone has to back up a little bit to not be in the pee, and then you're shooting from the door.
Those rugs are so disgusting too. But yeah, I mean, people don't care, and I don't. That's like whenever we have a powerlifting meet, and in the rules meeting, I always say, treat this place like your grandmother's house, because I doubt you respect your own house. Like, I would hope you respect your grandma's house.
Yep.
But it's a very different thing when you own your own business.
But I think that's important for business owners to understand is no one will care about your business
Right.
like you care.
Yeah, if you're out there and you're thinking about
Yeah.
opening your own business, just plan on doing everything.
My brother owns his own business, and I've had this discussion many times. He's like, well, they won't, like, he's scared to hire more employees because they won't do it the way he does. I said, I had 20 employees. Like, no one will do it the way you want it done.
No.
You're just trying to get them as best as you can, and then you take care of whatever comes up. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, that if there is a complaint, the employee may have to deal with you, but you are the one having to deal with the customer. You're the one that's having to refund. Your employee's still getting paid. Like, everything's still happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys all know this, but we had a former employee that just really was not invested in doing her job for us. I mean, her sole job. She did not care if she did it or not. And unfortunately for us, her sole job was helping to make us money. And she got a paycheck regardless if she did her job or not.
Yep.
And that's just so hard for me to fathom and to sit there and think about, that somebody out there would be like, well, all right, they probably make enough money. I don't really have to try that hard because I'm going to make money regardless.
Well, and it's hard for people like us because as employees, none of us were like that, but we're not the same as a regular person because we became entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur spirit is not very common. Most people think that they want to become that because it looks cool. Like, you get this and that and you have money, whatever. But that's not the super reality that people think it is. There's a lot of sacrifice, there's extra hours, and there's a lot of accountability and stress that you don't see. Making it look easy is what you do as a business, but is it easy? Never easy.
It's not extra hours. It's all the hours.
Yeah, you're never off work.
No.
You're
You
always
don't work
working.
Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You work 24 hours a day, 7 days
it's
a week.
part of your life.
I mean, I've gotten calls on a Sunday before. Hey, who was supposed to open the gym?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
We've
guess I'll
answered
be
emails
there.
on Christmas.
Yeah.
We've answered emails on January 1st when I'm, nursing a hangover. I'm like, yeah, let me check the schedule.
We've
Like,
scheduled
that's-
interviews or patients at a pool in Mexico on our phones, or I've been in an airport bathroom. I've scheduled people from an airport bathroom.
all of these are true.
These are all true.
I've sent workouts. I mean, if you are the end all be all as the owner. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You said something about a nice car. You know what I mean? And people want to comment about things and whatever. And actually, like, I know, like, my landlord, he has some nice cars, but he won't bring them to work because he doesn't want to hear people talk about it. But to me, you know what? Fuck that. I will drive my car. I'll drive my truck every day because, you know what? If it comes down to it, Amber and I will do whatever it takes to keep the business open.
Yeah.
Some employee can get jealous all they want to. I try to take care of our employees, because most of ours are just like part-time, you know what I mean? But, like, I treat them all with respect and I try to take care of them as best I can. And, like, I've never had a problem, but you know what? Or, like, with your Corvette, you know what I mean? Who cares? You fucking work all the time and you're going to do whatever it takes to, that's the difference. I'll do whatever it takes to pay for that vehicle or that house or that whatever you want to have, and it's going to happen.
I think at the beginning we were probably a little more nervous about like, well, you kind of have to hit a sweet spot, right? Like you can't drive the crappiest car because then people are going to assume that you're really bad.
There
at
is
what
something
you do.
to that. Yeah. You want to look successful.
Exactly. You have to give this persona, but at the same time, especially in the beginning, we were like, well, like
It could be
is
a
that a
look.
bad look? Are people going to start balking about what their bill is? And you get to the point where, I mean, Mark and I will see patients probably 60 to 65 hours a week. We work an additional, like right now we're doing billing and insurance things. So, I mean, we probably sit at a solid 80, 85, 90 hours a week, which I'm fine to do. Nobody outworks us. But then you have to switch that mentality to say, well, my employees or the public can have that perception of like, wow, they drive nice cars. That must be nice. He drives this car or she drives this car. Nobody works harder than me. Nobody works harder than Mark.
Don't come at me with that.
In our business.
In our business, not you.
No, I know. I
Except for those in this room.
you know, I've been there on Saturdays helping Mark do things. You know,
While
like
you were off gallivanting
we were
around.
there briefly.
drunk.
I wasn't drunk when I started, to be fair.
One of my favorite stories with
I
one
had
of my
to
favorite
borrow
stories
money.
ever with Mark is
I had to borrow money.
I had to loan Mark $5 so he could take his Corvette to the fucking hardware store
Lowe's. I
to
had to-
Lowe's.
Close to buy an Allen wrench.
Oh my God, I didn't have any money. I had to
I
buy
was
an
like, I gotta
Allen
loan.
wrench.
He had no cash in his card, and I was like, "Here, let me loan you money to take
We
your
had
Corvette."
money at the clinic. He just didn't know where he keeps it.
But yeah, I mean, like again, and helping other business people. You know what I mean? Like I've gone out and Mark and Claire have come to our meets and helped people out. Like I've gone out and helped them
You've helped us many times move equipment.
assemble
I've judged.
things and move
Absolutely.
equipment and judge. You know what I mean? And
You're
Tanner's always
judgmental
supported
already.
our meets and like.
At a formal capacity.
But we're all friends, but we all come from that same idea of like we're all hardworking. We're all going to support each other.
I've offered on a Saturday when I'm here training, if Brett
Oh yeah,
has
plenty
no
of
front
times.
desk, I'm like, I'll sit there and check people in. Like, go grab
Or go
food.
get breakfast, or she's offered to get
Yeah.
me breakfast. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean we all, and like I said, even Amber has her own business.
What's that saying? Like, great recognizes great.
Game recognized game.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Oh, is that for the program?
Well, I
You
think
get
there's
the
a
gist.
really good mutual respect between business owners because nobody knows what it's like to own a business unless you own one. And there's just always those misconceptions that it's easy or it's lucrative or whatever. But the trials and tribulations that you go through and the stress and the bullshit that you go through, no one understands it unless you own a business.
And, you know, and it's super rewarding when you have those customers that like recognize that. I'm not looking for like some like pat on the back, but it could be even like, hey, like when can you get me in? Or hey, you don't have this thing in stock or whatever. And you're like, hey, I could get you in this. They're like, well, I mean, you're here all the time. Like, what works for you? Or like, hey, I understand like you're busy. Like, when
Yeah.
can you? Like, those are the people you appreciate that are like, hey, man, I get it. Like, when I'll move my schedule, because that whole idea of like, oh, you can work whenever you want to. No, you work whenever, especially in the beginning.
Whenever
You work
Having-
when everybody
Having
else
somebody
wants to come in.
value your time. Yeah.
Yes. You work when everybody else wants. As you get along, sure, you can kind of like make your own schedule. You can start to cut things back. I mean, I've been training for almost 20 years, and it's only in the last few years that I've been able to be like, I'm only here from this time to this time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we started Max Muscle, I was still own Andy's, and Steve was working 10 to 8 every day. And then even after I sold Andy's, I started another business, and so we opened up a Blondo store. So I would go work my other business in the morning, and then go to work at the Blondo store. And usually when I left there, I had to go finish my other business. And it's like he's putting in 80 hours a week, and I'm putting in 80 hours a week. Everyone's trying to make stuff mix, and most people won't do that.
When we first opened, Amber and I would work 5 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
every day.
What question for you guys both, because I think we probably know what our answer is, but what moment made you think, okay, like we're not going to shut down? I mean, I know to some extent, like you always kind of think that, but like what moment happened that you were like, we're successful? Like, breathe a sigh of relief.
Oh, I don't know if there's an actual moment. I think when
I
I
have a couple.
I think when I could actually like you said, when I started to pay Amber and I, or when you start to hire employees, because, and this is not a knock on employees, this is not anything, but like if times ever get tough, that's why people get laid off. But like employees are like your first thing. But when you start to hire employees, it means you have expendable income.
Yeah.
You know, and not that the employees are expendable, because having great employees is huge, and I respect and
You
appreciate.
can't
all
do
of
it
my-
without them.
Yeah, I respect. Well, you can.
Yes.
It fucking
But
sucks.
that- yeah, it
massive
sucks.
balls.
Yes.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But when you get to the point you can hire employees, and now I know your employees kind of generate their own money, but like with Tanner and I, like our employees, they generate money for us, like they help us make money, but they don't actually like necessarily generate money
Yeah.
for the business.
Luke does, yeah.
But I
Yeah.
appreciate them being there, and like I said, it makes me not have to be here all the time. But once you hire them, it means to me, you've kind of made it, because you can have someone so you don't have to be there all the time.
Did you have a moment? What was your moment?
I think it was when we paid off our
Business loan?
business loan.
I think once you get to the point you don't owe anybody and you can afford to have more people, and you're paying yourself,
Yeah.
I think you've kind of.
Well, and ours was kind of an interesting scenario, is that we, like I said, I had several jobs and Mark worked there, and we were both just working. And we, thanks to my mom, like she was doing the majority of the bookkeeping. So we actually didn't really check in on our bank account that much. We were just working, scared that at any given time we weren't going to be able to pay rent. We weren't going to be able to pay our mortgage. We were going to lose everything. And all of a sudden, our accountant kind of said, hey, tap, 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 you should probably pay off your business loan. And we didn't even realize that that was an option. So when we went and we're like, well, instead of making this payment every single month, then let's just pay it off. And that was a very underwhelming experience.
It was a very
There was no
anticlimactic.
balloons. There was no confetti. They just kind of
No.
say,
It
hey,
was a
initial
Friday.
here. Thank you.
And then your credit score goes down because
yeah,
you have
because
less.
then we have one less account.
It was a Friday afternoon balance transfer.
Yeah.
That's
and
all
they're
it
like,
was.
please initial here. We dressed up for it. We came back to the clinic afterwards. My mom's like, what's wrong? Nothing. It took 5 minutes.
Yeah, balance transfer.
And now we have an hour and a half before we made our dinner reservation.
So,
But it's still great.
yeah.
So-
but that was probably the first time that we thought like, oh, like
And on
now
that-
we don't owe anything other than just like monthly expenditures. Now we just,
yeah, we don't have a debt.
yeah,
Well, to an extent, a business will always be in debt.
100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're ever
Yeah, you
like,
have a
I'm gonna-
lease.
you're always
Yep.
going to have a lease. You're always going to have, and you might have, like yours is probably constantly revolving, obviously with inventory and things
Yeah.
coming in. Or if like all of a sudden you guys want to make a big purchase and you're like, well, I don't want to put all the cash right away. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's always going to be something. It might not be debt, but it's taking money out of your pocket.
Absolutely.
Well, I think 2020 for us was one of those times where there's not enough money in your
There's
bank
no
account
amount in
that
your
will
bank
make
account
you feel
that you've-
secure, because that was a time where you didn't know what was going to happen. And that's not a bad year for us, but there was a scary month or two where we're like, oh my God,
Yes.
we never have to close or anything.
2008 was the same way.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yep.
It was scary for a lot of business owners because it's out of your control. And business owners like control. That's why they start businesses. And when you have something that affects your business that's not in your control, it's very difficult to cope with. So surviving 2020 and coming out like as a record year for us was huge for me.
yeah.
And as all of us as small business owners, we all have kind of the same mindset. And you're talking about things out of control, like when you get to your leases are up and you're trying to renegotiate. There is nothing more than I fucking hate is greedy business people.
Yeah.
And you see it, especially now, and they're all going to get theirs, is the commercial real estate market.
Yeah.
We were looking at spaces for Amber to maybe do some stuff, and my leases, I need to renegotiate some things on mine. And they all want way more money than their stuff is worth, and it's all out of fucking straight greed. Like there is nothing more greedy, and I've talked with some of my clients that are business than triple net. If you don't know what triple net is and you're not a business owner, it doesn't matter. But it basically takes all liability out of anyone who owns a business. Like everybody who goes into business, remember this, there's always risk, there's always liability that you're going to have. But the way they try to structure a lease, they're like, oh, hey, here's your price per square foot. Oh, then on top of it, we're going to charge you a triple net of this amount. So now it's an additional.
Yeah. Taxes, maintenance,
And
everything.
insurance.
I told
yeah.
my
Taxes, yeah, you pay.
You pay everything.
Yep.
you literally, so I'm giving you the money to pay your note on the building,
Plus the tax.
plus the taxes, plus the insurance,
maintenance.
plus the maintenance. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? And
That is
they're
commercial.
new. Like,
Yeah, that's just the way it is.
and triple net is newer over the last 10 to 15 years. It wasn't always, they used to be just like the first lease I ever had was just, I only had to pay CAM, which is common area maintenance, right? Snow removal. That's all I had to pay. And that was fluctuating. But I think triple net is the greediest, most fucking highway robbery thing there is. And if I could get everyone in Omaha, every business owner to strike on it, I fucking would, because
Well, and I think part of it though is that if, as business owners, regardless of the business, if you felt like that money was going back into investment, right? Like I feel like all of us here in this room do a fantastic job of putting money back into our business. We're not just sitting there saying, okay, I've done this one thing, and if equipment is failing, then so be it, whatever, that's somebody else's problem. We're all putting money back into our business. And if you don't feel like you see that on your own return, like there's plenty of times that Mark and I are on a snow day. We're there well before the snow removal crew is there. Guess who's shoveling for my patients on
sometimes
crutches
it's
to come
us,
in?
yeah.
It's us.
Well, and I look at like, well, hey, we did this improvement outside. I don't give a shit about that. How does that affect my business at all?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, we put some flowers over here and we did a bunch of landscaping. Not one person has ever come into my gym like, God damn, that landscaping looks good out there.
Or asked the, the business owners in this strip, hey, how do you guys feel about flowers?
Yeah, let's take majority.
Is it worth paying for?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Is this what
I
you
don't
want?
give, just because you choose to, I don't give a shit what you want to do.
Yeah.
And if they're like, well, well, then don't ask me to pay for it.
Yeah.
But that's like the biggest, I think, scam in owning a business. And
It is.
if you're ever thinking about owning a business and you're looking at leases, you need to look at that because that's an extra massive fee they're going to slide in there on you.
I sense a gym, nutrition, physical therapy complex being built soon.
I think it could be done.
I mean, we've talked about a long time buying our complex ourselves. So, I mean, that's a 5-year plan for us is buying our building, the whole building.
Our 5-year plans don't.
Yeah, Steve and I were just talking about that the other day. I said, well, let's just wait 2 years because it's all crashing anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that,
Yep.
And that's why I was saying that commercial business owners are
Yeah.
going to get theirs because there's so many
Yeah.
spaces. But the problem is right now in a lot of, and I'm sure it's not just Omaha, it's that these are hand-me-down buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Their grandpa, their dad, whatever gave it to them, they don't owe anything on the building. They're like, well, fuck, whatever. Okay, well, guess what? Property taxes are still doing that, motherfucker, and they ain't cheap.
Well, so I know some of the like larger like private commercial guys. Well, they want empty spaces because they need the loss. Like they actually
Is
are
it right off?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're
for-
fine
yeah.
with it.
But you know, the shitty part of that is if somebody comes in, especially when it's slowing down, you got people who are going to start buying up commercial buildings. Well, if you don't have a leaser, leasee, what are the words?
Lessor?
Have you ever bought a commercial building?
Have we?
Yeah.
No.
So you actually don't buy it based on the value of the building.
You buy based on who the tenants.
You buy it based on the leases.
The value of the lease.
So these
Yeah,
people,
and you pay 10% extra than what you want to make 10% on the leases. Basically, at the end of the day.
so Amber and I went and looked at a little spot for her, and some of these spots have been empty since 2019, and they just fucking ghosted her and won't call her back. We made them like an offer I think was fair. No callback. Empty since 2019. It is October of almost November of 23.
But they might make more money
Well, but they're talking about
tax-wise with.
As a write-off, yeah.
well,
Yeah.
they were talking about selling some of these buildings, and I was like, these buildings are fucking empty. There's like four spots that were empty.
We were very surprised when luckily we got first right of refusal when our next door tenant left, and we were able to kind of break through. And granted, some of it was coming off of the heels of 2020, but we did not really have to. We extended our lease. We had already signed an additional 5-year lease, and then we extended our lease. I think 3 extra years because of that. That was it. I mean, to some extent, they were like, "Yes, you're good tenants. We would like to keep you here."
And that's what people need to
yeah.
remember. Like, hey, like I have a friend who owns a bunch of houses, and he's got a lady that's rented from him for years, always pays on time, but she's probably $500 under market. He's like, but you know what? She pays me. She takes great care of the property.
Yep.
Destroy the property.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Yep.
It covers. I make
Be
money
a
on
good
it.
tenant, and also if you go into a lease, have someone look at it for you. Find
Yeah.
a real estate guy, find a lawyer or somebody, because it saved us a ton of money just having someone in the business. Like, no, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
Got
Well,
it.
you guys had a next door neighbor who was not a good tenant.
We have another one that's really a pain in my ass. Freaking vape shop next door.
Do you think it's you?
Maybe.
Like that's the
And
common denominator.
Like a magnet.
But,
Freaking
you know, I
vape
think-
shop next door. I'm about ready to.
If you're going to open a business, you don't be greedy.
Yeah.
You got to make your money. I get that. You got to make money, and people don't always understand when prices change because everything changes. But like, there's nothing worse than somebody who's greedy for no reason.
If
Or,
you're
I mean-
only ever chasing money, if that's your end goal is money, you will always fail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't look at the if
Because
your goal is
your
to be-
guy's goal wasn't to make money; it was to build something different.
Right.
Your goal wasn't to make money. You wanted your own gym. Our goal wasn't to just be, if we wanted to make a ton of money, we would be doing other things. It was to make the best supplement store.
No,
we
I
will-
think
we will
all of
provide
us.
something unique to the community that we obviously enjoy being in.
I think all of us know that there is probably something that we can do to our business that's probably maybe slightly unethical, but could make us probably a a shit ton more money, right? Like we could have techs do the majority of the treatment,
Hire
which
a bunch
ton.
of we could have all these assistants.
Yeah,
like,
a
helping
ton
us.
of the chain clinics here and do that. They
then we're just
employ
like
a ton of
everybody
high
else.
school and college kids, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have your exercises supervised by an exercise technician. Nope, that's a high school kid that's getting paid probably $10 an hour to do that. You could probably sell some questionable things to
definitely.
every single person who asks about it. You could probably do it.
Sell questionable things.
questionable things.
Yeah, and
Creatine.
even with me, it's like I've had a lot of people who are like, what I think is cool about Omaha Barbell is that as the owner, you're always here. We can talk to the owner.
Yeah.
Except when people call, I tell them the owner's not here because they're gonna ask me for something fucking stupid.
Gosh,
Steve and I do that to each other. Someone will call me, like, is the owner there? No, he works tomorrow. He does the same thing to me.
Oh, I'm always like, oh man, they're on vacation. What are they gonna be? I don't know. They're really in and out.
We have caller ID, and so there's definitely times where I'll answer the phone and say, Core Physical Therapy, this is Claire. And then there's times where I just say, Core Physical Therapy.
Yeah, I never say my name. Nope.
And there's plenty of times where people, yeah, I'd like to leave a message for Claire. Okay, she's not in now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an adventure for sure. But yeah, there's plenty of things we could do. But I think what we have done to get us where we're at, it's like, stick with the date you showed up with.
Mark and I have said from the very beginning is that we sleep very well at night, knowing that the dollar that we make is made the correct way and the ethical way. Mm-hmm. And not to knock business owners that, aren't as hands-on. I know there's plenty of businesses where people are investing in something and they're like, cool, I own this and somebody else runs it. That is a luxury that nobody in this room gets, unfortunately, but it's cool. That's awesome if you fall into that scenario. But I mean, that's just not where we are. So I think that
But I don't want to be hands off anyway.
No,
you're always going to be there.
Yeah, the personal investment in your
do.
business. There's no substitution for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the beginning we were talking about this last show, we were talking about Andy Frisella. And Andy Frisella, if you're ever thinking about getting into business, Andy's a very interesting guy to listen to. He owns First Form Nutrition. He owns a couple entrepreneur businesses, but Andy's still heavily involved in his businesses. Mm-hmm. He knows almost everything that goes on. He has obviously he's done very well for himself. He has a huge property. He has a giant get together for all of his employees out of respect. You know what I mean? But he still is very hands-on, knows everything that's going on in his business. And you should, if you're just going to hire somebody and walk away, you'll never know what's being done. Mm. And then will your business be as successful?
No.
So yeah, if you're thinking about getting into business, do your research. When you look at a lease, like Tanner said, have somebody else look at it. Also, if you don't understand it,
know what you don't know.
Yep.
Know what you don't know.
Be
and then
prepared
also
to work
Be
the
prepared
hardest
to-
that you've ever worked in your entire life. And so you really do have to love what you're doing.
yes, and when, on the lease thing, and Amber would always be like, so when I go to renegotiate my lease, she's like, well, be nice to him. But there's a different, like my landlord is a great human. He's a great guy. We're friends. But when it comes down to business is business. And you know what I mean? If you don't fight for yourself, no one else will. And this is how business is. No one is going to look out for you. You have, like all of us obviously look out for each other and what we do in our businesses. But it's that old adage, if you don't ask, you don't know.
Yeah.
What's the worst going to do? Say no? But if you want to open a business, get your shit right. Don't do this thing where you want to jump from A to Z. Like you just open and we're going to hire all these employees. No. Put your time in, work there, build the business yourself, and you'll appreciate it a lot more, especially the success of the business.
Well, and just you have to be prepared for the stress. Steve and I were just talking yesterday. Steve woke up the other day and was like with a dream that we went out of business or we were going out of business, and he started running reports in the middle of the night just to make sure we weren't. I'm like,
That's the life of a business
actually
owner.
is a really good point. Like Mark and I for the longest time did not necessarily want to be as hands-on with not the financials of the business, but the intricate details, like who's paying what. I don't ever want to feel like I'm treating a patient differently because I know what their insurance pays versus another person's insurance. But at the end of the day, like we had a little bit of a slap in the face earlier this year. You have to know that. Like I don't have a business degree. I have a health science and a medical degree.
You got a hard knocks business degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is something where you're like, well, shit, I didn't know what I didn't know until the world told me that I didn't know it.
And a lot of partnerships don't work out, but Steve knew this business and I just knew business. Mm-hmm. And it's still the same thing. Like I do the bills, I do the books, I let him know when, so like he orders and so we always have a fight because he ordered new stuff. He's like, I ordered new things. I'm like, God damn it.
But even as friends, you always got to look out, even if you're in a friend's partnership in one's books, you should always have access to the book. Never not have access to what's going on, because that friend could fucking steal from you.
Yeah, and I just send it to them.
Everybody's friends until you're in business together. When there's money involved, it changes relationships.
We've been in business for 10 years together. We've had one fight. It was a good one, though. Like, it was a good
But you
one.
guys both have access to the books.
Yeah.
Everyone
Well,
should.
Yeah, I just send it. Yeah.
Yeah, you should
You
always
can
know
have it.
what's in your account. Yeah, in business, basically, never trust anyone.
Well,
I trust Mark.
Obviously, you're living in the same household, but you get what I'm
mean,
saying.
we have
Yeah.
to.
You trust them, but you still want to see the order that he put in. You
it's
know what I mean?
always the trust but verify. Like, you have to trust
Yes.
people in business, because if you don't, you'll
You'll go
you're
crazy.
going to limit yourself.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to be so micro, you're going to limit yourself. But it's trust and verify. Like, just always make sure you know what's going on, but at some point in time, you also have to let go a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that's just generally good advice to your dozens of listeners.
Yes, the dozens and dozens.
We're up to dozens and dozens. Thank you.
Yes.
The dozens and dozens of listeners, is that if you have any inkling of getting into business, like I said, Mark and I, we both had an exercise science degree. We both went into grad school, physical therapy, had our doctorate. None of us had even the opportunity to take a business class.
No.
And it's very ironic, and we would kind of chuckle about it now looking back, but I didn't know. I knew how to do my job, and I did my job really, really well. I didn't know how to make money from my job.
Or read the P&L.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until we became business owners. I just knew how to do my job, and somebody else took care of me making money.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think that people have to remember, no one cares how good you are at your job unless they know who you are. And they also have to like you. You can be the best person at your job, but if you're not likable and people don't know who you are or where you are, it doesn't matter. So you have to make sure that you're also like a part of a community. You have to make sure that you aren't just good at your job.
You have to
you-
be the marketer.
Yes.
You have to be everything.
And-
Wear a
and
lot of
that-
hats.
You can't be hands off. You can't be
No,
disengaged.
it's
you can't
everything
be.
you do.
And like we were
at a
talking,
distance.
earlier about, even when you're broke, you have to have the projection that you're successful.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. But then when you're successful, you need to make sure you don't look too successful.
Dial it back a little bit.
I still remember when I think you sold a car, and your car went towards the process, or the proceeds of your car went towards both, like the down payments of both of our cars, because we needed to be able to, on a zero salary essentially, we needed to be able to lease cars that at least looked like we weren't homeless and broke.
Yeah.
Because who wants to go to a medical professional who looks like they're homeless and broke? Like, ooh, you probably suck at your job.
Yeah, that whole it
You
sounds
live in a tent outside.
I mean, perception is reality.
it sounds cliche, but it's like enjoy the process and take the time. But you know what I mean. But now where you can get whatever car you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, but enjoy that process. Like because those always lead to, like, when you're sitting around with your friends or like in the circle, like the funny stories of things you did when you were in business, like in the crazy shit you would do to get things. Like, I mean, I've driven 4 hours to pick up a piece of equipment because I refused to spend the amount of money for a new one. I mean, and I was like, those were great stories.
Yeah.
I mean, it was me and Justin Groffs in a small pickup.
It was so
driving-
sweaty.
And he was cutting for a bodybuilding show.
Oh,
Real
So
sweaty.
The smell.
when we bought the Max Muscle stores up here 10 years ago, they were within like a week of losing their franchise. And we went into the La Vista store. It was in a real shithole. And 2/3 of the product on the shelves were empty jugs. The employee knew that he needed to look like he had things, so he started giving like people $1 off to return their jugs, and then he would take them and put them back on the shelf so it looked like they had stock.
That's not a terrible idea.
That's, yeah,
It's
that's
not, but
actually,
when we go in there, I'm like, that's empty. Like, yeah.
that's not a bad idea.
So, yeah, for everyone out there who thinks that everything in owning a business, especially in the beginning, is rainbows and butterflies, it's not. There's a lot of things,
There's a lot of cow manure in there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of events that I'm sure you guys have, Amber and I have missed out on because you're working. You know what I mean? Like family
Holidays,
events,
birthdays.
Holiday, yeah.
holidays, you're late to things.
Yeah.
One of my favorite examples of that is that, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, is that Mark comes from a family of a lot of brothers, and they all had the luxury of here somewhere in the last 2 years when Christmas was on a weekend. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to celebrate Christmas on the observed holiday. Well, observed holidays for us are very, very busy days because everybody else has
Has
it
a day off. Yep.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, cool. One less thing that I have to squeeze in during my week. So they're like, yeah, we'll see you guys at noon on the 26th. I'm like,
Which is a Monday.
I'm 5 hours into my workday at noon on the 26th.
Yeah, sorry, can't attend. Sorry.
And that's
I always laugh because when Christmas is on a weekend, I was like, fuck, man, we didn't even get a day off. This is
exactly.
horseshit.
We haven't had a
absolutely.
day off for Christmas or New Year's for the last 2 years.
And we always look forward because we've had this tradition the last few years for Christmas Eve. Amber
Yeah.
and I, Mark and Claire
Yeah.
get together, and it's like, well, if it's during the week, it won't be till like 4. But if it's on the
Right.
weekend, we might get together like at noon.
Yeah.
That's like 4 years running.
Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
a pretty solid tradition we got going.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
we
it's-
have to be open on New Year's Day because
We-
Oh, it's
New
yeah,
Year's,
yeah,
I mean-
big
Absolutely.
day.
We didn't used to, but now we are.
Yeah.
And like we're closed like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. I think are the only days that we're closed here. We have shorter hours for holidays, but yeah. Otherwise, it's and as people out there who don't own businesses and maybe you like to go play like to small businesses, like support those people. Like like, well, oh, you're gonna be closed that day. I don't have to work. Well, I don't want to fucking work either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, think about that. Maybe they don't work and be like, well, I got to get in. No, you only go to the gym 3 days a week. So fucking move your days around. Or you go to PT twice a week. You move.
You can make something else happen.
You can move. And Mark and Claire would probably rather work longer days leading up to that to be able to have that day off.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and same thing with you guys. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
people are just like, their business, they're people too.
But to that point, exactly what you said is that we are always willing, and all of us are willing to extend our hours, to squeeze somebody in, to give up a lunch hour, to come in early, to stay late, if we know that that's going to, a day off or a holiday is going to impact people. Mark and I will have always said that if we end up taking a day off for a vacation, it's almost more work to take a day off.
It is because we work more before and after to do so.
But I think sometimes people forget that.
Yeah.
Either the general public who is just looking at like, oh, you're off, that must be nice, or somebody who's going into business who probably didn't think about that.
But yeah, just think about those people who own small businesses. They're people too.
Yeah.
And if they've always treated you well, treat them well. Have some loyalty to businesses.
Yeah.
Because they're doing everything they can to make your experience good or provide what you need. And so remember that when they have something going on.
yeah.
We have cats that miss us. You have dogs that miss you.
No business wants any of us three, if we're closed for a day, we don't want to see, because we're all on Instagram or we're all on social. We don't need to see you at another place.
No.
Don't want to see that. You can't miss a day to come and fucking, support the place that supported you. Like I've had people call, hey, I don't have any money. Could you run my payment on the 15th instead of the 1st? Yeah, man, I'll help you out. And then the next month they like cancel their membership.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna go to this other gym. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Did they move your payment for you? Like the whole, what have you done for me lately? Just remember that shit. Or like,
Yeah.
hey, did Tanner specially order something for you? And then you don't fucking show up and buy it. Like, or you guys stay open and then they don't show up for their appointment. You never hear from them again. Like,
Yeah. Somebody
respect
calls
those people,
in
man.
and
Like-
they say, oh, can we get in today? No, like you're calling at 2:00 in the afternoon. I don't have anything today, but you know what? I'll give up my lunch tomorrow. I'm going to call around. Okay.
yeah.
Like it's a constant slap in the face as a business owner. But I think probably the crummiest part isn't that it happens. It's that you're expected, and we do, like shrug it off, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yeah. And if you're gonna be a business owner, you better have some tough skin because
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Hard.
sometimes
short
shit's gonna
memory.
get super hard. Yeah.
Very short memory.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to remember, like when you support small businesses in your community, that money stays in your community. We do like fundraisers. We do
They always support our meets.
like when you spend money at a small business, it just doesn't go to like a big corporate entity. It goes to the community.
Yep.
We live here. We pay taxes here. We
spend our money
donate
here.
money.
Yeah.
We spend money
And
here.
not that there aren't like chain clinics and franchise that obviously employ local people. Obviously they do. Like my parents owned a business that technically was a franchise, but it was a small business. I mean, it was owned locally. So
That's why people think like with Dairy Queens and like people look at like McDonald's and those are a lot of those are owned by local franchisees.
Scooters, perfect example.
It's not
Yeah,
corporate, so
absolutely.
don't shit on those guys either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
But recognize what's locally owned and operated. I think that's
Target
the big
is not
key.
locally owned.
No. But I mean, if you get to go into a place and regardless of if you're getting the runaround on the phone, but if the owner is there, like that's something. And that's something rare that I think the general public doesn't realize.
but all of us three businesses, the owners are there. I mean, you and Steve are always there.
We're always there. One of us is always
Yeah,
there.
I'm always here majority of the time, and you guys are, as long as you're open, you're there.
Yeah.
I've never been there. Obviously, that you're not there. I mean, obviously, I'm in and out a little bit, but I'm here 90% of the time. So, but yeah, just remember that if you want to get into business, or if you're if you go to any one of our businesses and you have questions, don't ask people like, so like, how much money do you make? Like, that's an asshole question to ask.
I had a patient ask me, like, what tax bracket are you in?
Like Amber hates it. I'll ask friends, like we'll talk about something like, how much was that thing? And like, she's like, why would you ask them that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm fascinated by how much things are. I don't know. Like,
Kind of a private thing.
Well, ask Amber.
but I don't straight ask somebody how much money they make.
No, not so. No.
I just always say, like, if I have a client or something, I'm like, well, I hope you get paid well for that. You know what I mean? But yeah, just do your research. If you have questions, ask somebody that owns a business that you know that trusts, that has a successful business.
You should put up a little question box for your dozens and dozens.
We could. We do a little Q&A.
Yeah, a little Q&A.
Yeah. But ask around and also support these people who will put in the extra time for you. Not, you know, maybe they didn't do something for you this week, but maybe last month they did. It's not all about what have you done for me lately.
I think like take home point is that small business owners we're really trying our best. Like there are things that we fail at and things that we falter at for sure.
Yeah, and we have days where somebody might annoy us. Like when you come in, maybe we might not be the friendliest, but you know, there's been a lot of shit going on that day.
Yeah, and there might be somebody who calls, wants to talk to me, and I get back to them like 2 days later because that's the first time that I've actually had a chance to have.
Yeah, don't feel bad.
thought.
She's terrible at texting too, so don't feel bad about that.
Yeah, no, gosh. I get a thumbs up sometimes.
Yeah, but you know, just always remember those things. You know, unless somebody's like just a shitty. But if you go to a place and the business is 99% of the time is in good spirits and helping people out, but then sometimes also be like, man, maybe I'm kind of an asshole, and I give that same energy back.
Yeah.
So
Maybe you're the asshole.
Yeah.
Well, I usually am.
So always remember that stuff. And check out, you know, obviously the Mecca Omaha Barbell. You got Elite Nutrition Omaha, and obviously Core Physical Therapy. It's Elite Nutrition Omaha is your Instagram also.
Yep.
Core Omaha. Core Omaha is theirs. Omaha Barbell is ours. If you ever have any questions or come by and check us out, you know, if you need supplements, go to Tanner. If you want a gym, come here. If you're fucked up, go to Mark and Claire. And you'll be happy no matter where you go. We appreciate you guys listening. I know it's not the regular we always talk about, but, you know, we basically try to cover all things America. And I think successful entrepreneurship, this country gives you the ability to do whatever you want to.
Yeah. But
You're
you got
willing
to
to
work.
put in the work.
You got to work.
You got to put in the work. So thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, download. We'll see you guys next time.